Welcome back to How to Be a Top Producer on the Miami Real Estate Podcast, where we break down the highly effective habits of Miami's top entrepreneurs, thought makers, and visionaries. I'm Omar DeWint, a communications executive at Cervera Real Estate. Today, I have the honor of interviewing someone who brings new meaning to the phrase 90 is the new 60. The one, the only Alicia Cervera Sr., founder and chairman of Cervera Real Estate. Alicia, known as the Queen of Brickell and Grand Dame of Miami Real Estate, has participated in every major Miami real estate cycle since she founded the firm in 1969. Together with her daughters Veronica and Alicia, the Cervera name has exclusively represented and sold 115 plus condominiums, resulting in billions in sales and revitalized neighborhoods across the region, including Brickell, downtown Miami, Edgewater, and Miami Beach's south of 5th. Today, nearly 60 years since she first fled Cuba with her husband amidst political turmoil and arrived penniless in Miami, she is credited for having pioneered the modern-day model for development sales and marketing, having opened Miami's door to the global brokerage community, and in the process, single-handedly proved that the American dream is not only alive, that it is well and thriving in this magic city. For these reasons, in 2016, the mayor of Miami declared October 18th Alicia Cervera Day in the city, proclaiming that no woman has had a larger impact on the development of Miami since Julia Tuttle founded the city in 1895. This 18th of October marks the 2-year anniversary of this special date and the eve of Cervera's 50-year anniversary, that's 5-0. This has helped us finally wrangle Alicia onto the show to share with us publicly for the first time her proven 7-step method for pre-construction sales success. So with that said, Alicia, welcome to the Miami Real Estate Podcast.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very happy and honored to have you here. This really is a special occasion, as I mentioned, for many reasons. But one of them that was not in the intro is the congratulations in order for the first of your 4th generation was born today. How about that?
Yes, it was a very emotional feeling and a new beginning.
I can only imagine. So I just coined this phrase, say the hashtag 4th generation. So we're going to try to make that a thing by the end of this week. So Alicia, you have a very special story, a very special journey, as I mentioned. But please, could you share with us in your own words, sort of tell me a little bit about that story having arrived here and what you feel were some of the defining moments?
Well, as you know, I arrived in 1961 with my husband. I am myself Peruvian born, and he's Cuban, because of the turmoil in the island. And when we arrived here, it was a change in our life, completely life. No? We arrived penniless, accustomed not to be penniless. And for a few years, I was almost in shock, adapting myself to a new culture. And all of a sudden, it changed completely. And it's a coincidence that today was born a new baby in the family. And what changed me and adopt and realized that I will be in the United States and will be also my country is when I had a son that was born in this country. All of a sudden, all my loose ends come together. And I say, I have to realize that this is my country, that I'm going to live here. Let me see what can I give back.
So then just for context for our readers, so to be clear, when you arrived here with Don Javier Sr., Veronica and Alicia Jr. were about
3 and 6 years.
3 and 6 years old. And it wasn't until a couple years later when Javier Jr. was born.
Yes.
Sort of gave you that new strength and determination, right?
It was like 6 or 7 years afterwards. It took me time
so,
to adapt myself. So I think I am a late bloomer in relation to work because I started working when I was 39 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow, 39. Yes, so better late than never, they say, huh?
So, yes, I always give hope to people. I say, but I am only 27, 28. So I start working at 39. Right. And I made it, no?
So tell me a little bit about Miami in that time. What was happening then?
It was a very sleepy city. I don't know why all the glamour that we have seen in the Fontainebleau and Frank Sinatra has disappeared. And it was very, very calm and very, I will repeat myself, very sleepy. Sure. And all of a sudden, the Cuban influx changed that. The music started playing in the streets. And the people from South America were very intrigued about this. Cubans coming to Miami and opening other type of venues. And in 3, 4, or 5 years, you could see that the city was blooming again. It was a very lucky to be in Miami in that moment because you see a new liveliness,
energy and spirit, right?
Yeah.
So there's a new energy in the city. Miami's coming alive. You've realized now with Javier Jr. being born that you want to get back into the workforce at 39, as you say. So tell me about that process and what happened.
Well, I went to Sears Roebuck, and I tried to get a job there, but they gave me a paper to fill an application. It was so complicated. Social Security, I don't know, a lot of things that I was not aware of them. So they didn't hire me.
Okay.
So I went home and I started saying, let me rethink myself. So I remember that I realized, more than remember, that my mother used to build houses in Peru, and for a woman born at the beginning of the last century, it was very unusual. And she was very good at that. And my father, who was an intellectual, helped her in the mathematical part, in the thing of making numbers and see if things were going to work out profitable. Mm-hmm. And so I said, let me see what I can do in the city that is growing, that is changing, and that so many new people are coming. So I took my exam in this new University of Miami. I was able to pass, but I had my doubts because I was the last person to leave the room. Oh, yeah. Every other person that was giving the exam left before me, but I was able to make it. And I started working in real estate in 1969.
Wow.
And I realized that I like it a lot. Even though selling in my mind had been like a taboo, because my father, who was didn't like salespeople.
Okay.
I don't know why, but he didn't like salespeople.
And he was the ambassador to the UN, correct?
He was ambassador with UN. He was a diplomat, not by career, but by appointment. The president of Peru sent him to a place when he was needed.
Okay.
Because he really, by career, he was a professor. He was an honorary professor in Stanford University.
Interesting.
Yes, he never taught there, but honorable, no? And in Peru, which was one of the most all universities in the continent.
Sure.
San Marcos, he was a professor there. And he says that when he was in front of a salesperson, he was afraid that he might buy something that he didn't want, that personality would take him over. So I had that very much in my mind, and I always have been very careful not to push anybody to buy something that they really don't want and that it's not going to be for them a step forward, not a step forward. So I think that perception of him helped me to be very sincere in my interest in the business, and it reflects in the appreciation of the people that have always demonstrated me. I am very grateful of when I meet somebody from the beginning of my career to today, how nice things they have to tell me.
So that's lesson number one for you guys out there, and it wasn't on the list, but don't force somebody to buy something that they don't necessarily want or need.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Mrs. Cervera, there's a key defining moment here in your story, in your history, when that's Mr. Hemsley. You read in the paper that he's purchased the land off Brickell Avenue, correct? Yes. So tell me about that time and what happened there.
I read that Mr. Hemsley has bought, in that time he was the tycoon of real estate in New York, him and the beautiful wife. And I say, let me do something out of my...
out of your comfort zone? Outside of the box, right?
Out of the box.
Sure.
I am going to write him.
Okay.
He was a billionaire. I was a very poor immigrant at the time.
Sure.
And I wrote him a letter saying that who I was and what I could do for him.
Okay.
I say I have an experience with the people around the world because of the job that my father held for so many years. I know the different mentalities in people, and I was surprised because as soon as he received the letter, 3 or 4 days afterwards, he called me. And the secretary told me, Mr. Hemsley would like to speak with you. And he made an appointment with me in Palm Beach with the wife, and we went there, and I got the job after talking to him.
Wow.
And it was a $65 million job. And I have to be grateful also to my teacher in real estate, because he always keeps saying, the important things are the listings. I say, well, the important things are the listing. Why I'm going to go for a listing of 300,000 or 30,000 in that time? Let me go for a listing, and this was a 65 million listing. So I have to be grateful to him for that thing that he always was very persistent. The listings are the important thing, the listings.
Right. And so I think part of correct me if I'm wrong, part of what was interesting to Mr. Hemsley, right, was that you were proposing a different sort of model approach to selling the listing, correct?
Yes. One of the things that I have realized while trying to sell apartments in developments that were starting to come up in Miami, is that they didn't have any know-how to sell to the foreigners.
Sure.
Yes, they didn't know even. I was surprised that many of the people, the in-house people, didn't know that different countries have different names for their monedas.
Mm-hmm.
For their currency. Some people are called sucre, the other one is called peso, and insignificant things like that, like the important things. They don't know the capitals of many of the countries. And I had that training from my father that I knew all those things. Mm-hmm. So I say, these people are really, I want to do a real estate company that caters to those people.
Sure.
And I started my Cervera Real Estate, and my first phrase was that I was going to dedicate to a platform, a new platform with these new ideas to present it to the developers.
Once again, you're listening to the Miami Real Estate Podcast. Today we have a very special guest in the studio, the one and only Alicia Cervera Sr., founder and chairman of Cervera Real Estate, also known as the Queen of Brickell and the Grand Dame of Miami Real Estate. So, Alicia, thanks for sharing with us your backstory. You have 7 keys to success, tried and true principles for selling pre-construction. Please do me the honor of walking us through them.
Well, as we have mentioned, the first is greeting.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very important the way you say hello to a person. It opens the relationships at the beginning. Mm-hmm. The other one, it's a presentation. You have to know very well the product that you're representing. Mm-hmm. And in the presentation, I always goes together with the qualification. Okay. While you are presenting the building and saying all the qualities of the building and all the locations of the building and all the good things that has the building, you start also qualifying your buyer to see what thing, if they're going to like a high floor, a low floor, a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom.
So help me understand that then in the context now. So one thing is greeting, obviously, when they come in, building the rapport.
Yes.
The presentation, 2, is understanding the product and knowing how to deliver the product. But the qualification, so how are the ways that you qualify a buyer? Is what they're looking for? Is if they're qualified?
You ask the right question. You're asking how many people in the family.
Okay.
You're qualifying how big the apartment they need. You ask them what if they have an interest in the high floors.
Sure.
Some people tell you I'm afraid of heights or I love heights. So you start asking, are you going to use it as a second home, as a first home? And things also, and then you start also being a little bit more subtle to see how much they can pay for an apartment.
Okay.
If they are for $10 million, or they are for $1 million, or for $300,000. That's very important because people are shy in telling you I cannot afford this or I can afford it. Some people are afraid to say I can afford anything, and some people are afraid the other way around.
So actually, I have to ask you, since you're here and you're like the queen of doing, all these the salesmanship. So what is the subtle way how does one do that subtly?
Sometimes the best subtle way is the direct way. Okay. How much do you want to spend?
Okay, there's one.
But not asking him how much money do you have to spend.
Okay,
it makes all the difference. How much do you want to spend? Do you want to do that? So it's a subtle way of not being subtle.
Right, I like it. Okay, so is there anything else involved in the qualification?
Yes, I think there is a lot of. Talking with the people, you can see what do they like more. Okay. If they are people that like sports, if they are like people that want to go to a nice restaurant, so you start emphasizing, or they're looking for a place that has a hospital that will attend them. So you start also qualifying what do they like?
Sure.
And when they ask you and they tell you that, for instance, they are great fans of tennis, you start talking about many places in Miami that where you can play tennis, and you started that after recently in Key Biscayne, everybody that is anybody in tennis was here, and if they anything or basketball. Or if they like music, you start talking about the art center that we have one of the best. Yes,
with the ballet and the
ballet and the city. So, but to somebody that doesn't like ballet or the theater, you should not talk to them about it.
Sure.
Or somebody that doesn't like tennis, so you have to qualify also the people by asking different subtle questions. Again, subtle, you can be direct.
Right. Well, I have to give you actually a sort of a congratulations, a pat on the back for an inspiration that you gave me with that concept, which was our market snapshot that we put on our Cervera blog. It's a weekly recap because you told me one day the best realtor can talk to their client about anything, right? From who won the political runoff to who won the Oscars last night, right?
Of course. Imagine if you enter into today, somebody entered from Brazil, and you don't know that elections are going to be in Brazil next Sunday. You are not forming a relationship with the person.
Yeah.
And I always say that part of what you are doing, your presentation and your qualification, you are doing one of the best things that you can do in real estate is gaining the trust of the people.
Of course.
And how do you gain trust? You gain trust about linking within in some sort of thing. You like to cook very well.
Right.
So they start changing recipes. I had one girl that started working with me, and she said, Alicia, the first time I was with you, I say, we're selling an apartment. What are Alicia's talking about the Egypt and the pyramids in Egypt? What are you talking about that? I realized that the man has just traveled and have been there, so I start traveling. And to gain the trust of the people, you start sharing things with you're human beings after all, you're not robots.
As you say, it's the human side, the personal touch.
The personal touch.
Right.
To gain the trust, which is something that you must be doing while you do your qualification and also showing the
presentation and qualification. So assuming you do those right, then you're ready to talk about pricing, right? That's next on the list.
Yes. Pricing comes together with opportunity, no? You have to know very well why these prices. I bought once a book about how to pricing and how to defend your prices.
Okay.
And I think that was so interesting. I don't know if I have the time here to tell you about my Boeing story. The man that was going to buy a Boeing plane or a plane with another name.
That sounds like an interesting story.
And this is justifying prices, no? And the people that I talk to them, my salespeople that I talk to them, they say it's a great thing for them to learn how to stand for the prices. Because everybody wants to say, oh, it's so expensive, Nobody says that's very cheap. No, nobody mentions it. And this thing is, the man was going to buy a plane. So he went to Boeing, and the plane in the Boeing, it was a small plane, it was like $500,000. And then he went to another place, and the plane for 4 seats and very similar was only $375,000.
Okay.
So he says, well, I'm going to buy the other plane. So he went back to the Boeing and said, listen, I said that you were so nice with me that I want just to tell you that I find something much more, the price is much better.
Sure.
I said, what are you telling me, much better? Yes, it's $125,000. Have they told you how much mileage do they have by the gas? I say, well, let me see it. Oh, yes, the point is uses a lot of it. Have they told you if you arrive to an airport and you need a maintenance part that they don't have it, that probably you have to stay in an hotel for 3 days while Boeing has maintenance parts in every airport in the world.
Sure.
You tell you that, and the man says, stop, I am going to buy the Boeing. So I think
that's a good one. So it's all relative. It's easy to see a price just on face value and think one is cheaper than the other, but in reality.
Yes, and that's something that I tell the people, because I say, when you're going to sell something, you have to be convincing. Never saying a lie. The most that you can do is exaggerate the truth, never lie. You have to be truthful to your statements, and to be truthful, you have to gain knowledge. Because if you don't have knowledge, how can you be truthful if you don't know something? You know?
Right. And what do you think is one of the biggest, I guess, when you're talking about pricing, one of the biggest mistakes a realtor will make when dealing with a customer, or vice versa, that you see often?
Well, I think that they get somebody sometimes intimidated.
Okay.
And the worst thing is not to get intimidated in life. Because if you get intimidated in life, you don't do the right things. You start doing the wrong things. So The Power of Intimidation is another book that I read many times. That was wonderful, you know? And I think that when somebody says, this is too pricey, or somebody says, I am in a hurry, they say, I want a presentation, but I am running. Remember that he is in a hurry, you are not. You have all the time to do your presentation. And many times that people that told you that he's in a hurry, stay 3 hours or 4 hours with you.
Interesting.
Because, yes, and it happens a lot. It happens and happens again.
I like that one. So we've talked about greeting, presentation, qualification, and pricing. Now let's assume all of these things have fallen into place and we found a good price. I loved your presentation, you qualified me. So tell me about financing. What's the next step?
Well, right now, you know, a lot of people are paying up to 50% in the new constructions. So financing has transformed itself a little bit in method of payment. How do you pay the 50% up front that they are asking many constructions? And you have to use a lot of one of the ingredients that I find that is very good when you are selling is to be flexible.
Okay.
In the method of payment, you have to say what the developer wants, but you have to demonstrate that there is some flexibility. Don't put the 50% up front, don't put 20% up front and the other 10%, and start in your steps going in that direction. You have to see the face of the people to see if they feel comfortable. And because some people, for instance, they tell me at the end of the year, I sell a lot of toys because my industry is on the toy business.
Sure.
And so you say, I will, and now we are in April, so I think that from here to December, even though there are lots of months, I will be sure that...
prefer to move the next payment
step.
date.
So you have to study what are the possibilities of each person doing. Or some people are getting bonus, or some people are closing their year of their corporation. You have to realize all those things when you are talking about financing and the flexibility of the down payment.
Right, because it's a huge, a huge investment, a huge, life decision, and so don't be so rigid with the black and white. Look for opportunities. Don't be so rigid. And you have qualified the people, and you know. And then also when they sign something, you can take it to the developer, and you have time to investigate more, to see how if he's true that he's from Brazil and not from Pakistan or something like that. Somewhere else. Not that there's anything wrong with Pakistan. That's it's a great country.
No, it's nothing wrong to be Brazilian either.
Right. And we're having fun here today. So, Alicia, tell me about the next step is the contract situation.
Yes, I always tell my agents that all these points that we have discussed are only 45%, at the most 50%.
Okay.
The thing that makes you a closer. I don't know if you understand my term, closer.
A closer, yeah. Always be closing. That's the motto of our kickball team. Kickball team.
Okay.
So what makes you a closer?
When you go to closer, I think it's when you start helping the people to make the decision of what they want.
Okay.
To find out what they want, not what you want, but what they want. Help them realize what they want. And that happens in the presentation of the contract. You have a contract in front of them, and you say, are you going to put it in the name of a corporation, or it's going to be your name? And then they start thinking, well, this is Siemens business, no? Because you're starting, what name I am going to put here? And then you go step by step, and you go to the method of payment again. You go to the location of the apartment. You like the northeast view. You like the middle of the building, or you like the building. And you start taking step by step, almost by the hand, to the people. But remembering always that it's not your decision. It's their decision. You are only giving a service. Real estate, as I always say, is a service. So you are servicing them to get what they want.
Right.
Not what you want, but what they want. and that's what's so delicate, and so you have to be really professional to do that. And many people in real estate, they never arrive to the closing point, and then they have to retire of the profession. But to give the step to
is there one reason over another that you think why they don't get to the closing point?
They don't get about it. Yes, I think that there are a lot of reasons. They don't get out. The salespeople get intimidated by the contract.
By the contract.
Yes, they get intimidated by the contract. Contracts are long, and you have to get friendly with the contract yourself. Mm-hmm. So in that way, you can sell it in a friendly way also.
Sure.
Everything in the contract is to protect you. Mm-hmm. Because they say that all the clauses there are to protect you. If the building is not finished, you will return your money. If the method of payment is not like that, you have 15 days to take it to your lawyer and to read it. So everything in the contract is friendly for the people. They say the lawyer has done it to protect the buyer and the seller. And many times more the seller than the buyer.
Right.
Yes. So if you as a real estate don't realize that you're with a friendly paper or a paper that is going to help you instead to hurt you, you don't go to the next step.
Interesting. So the contract is your friend. That's a new one. We haven't heard that one here yet. I like that. And what's a good way to get friendly or familiar with the contract? Obviously, you have to study it.
You have to study. You have to realize every step of it, and you don't have. And one of the things that I'm going to tell you something funny because we're talking so seriously. One of the things that I learned from somebody that was teaching people to sell
real estate.
English classes.
Oh, English classes. Okay.
Yes. I was in a conference, or I met this person, and he told me 2 or 3 things in real estate that were funny. First of all, Alicia, she told me, you have to sit down in a position that you're a little taller.
Okay.
So you have to sit down like that.
Right.
Then the other thing, when they ask you something, for instance, how many people can fit into the swimming pool, and you don't know the answer, or how many people are comfortable in the elevator. You say, do you like a cup of coffee? And then you have time for them to forget the question. Yeah. Many times they forget the question, or it's not time to check.
Right.
They are not going to forget you. You step out to make somebody bring the coffee and things like that also. So never say no. Always find a way to gain time.
To transition time. Or to pivot. Gain time. Buy yourself some time. I like that.
Yes,
Would you like some coffee? It's like 6 p.m. Would you like some coffee?
Yes.
Okay, great. So very good. So the last step is the check.
The check. Getting the check.
That's the finish line, right?
Yes. 30. I will put 50 points at the beginning, or 45. 30. To the contract, to reviewing the contract, make it friendly, make it, I want it now. I always say that you have trust, which is the presentation, how do you do your thing. Then you have help. Mm-hmm. And then in this part of getting the check, you have to work with the need. I want it now.
Mm-hmm. The urgency, right?
Urgency, yeah. I really need it. So you go and imagine in the afternoon with this, when the sunset comes, you can have here a martini or a cup of coffee or whatever they like. You really have to know what they like. And I start saying, and this piece of furniture that you mentioned, it fits perfectly here. You make them feel that they're inside the apartment, that they belong to you. And then you all of a sudden say, are you going to wire the money, or are you going to give me a check?
I like that.
You start talking about the way that they are going to make the payments.
Right, not whether or not they're going to make it, how they're going to make it.
Never ask a question and the answer is going to be no. Ask a question, 2 questions. Are you going to put it in your name, or are you going to put it in the name of a corporation? Are you going to wire me the money, or are you going to give me a check?
I like it.
Yes, nothing. Because if you say, are you going to wear me in the morning? Perhaps the people say, no, I am still thinking about it.
Right.
But then you put your mind in thinking about two decisions that they have to make. Not to buy or not to buy, but to send a check or to
Right. So it's a already believed it's outcome, right?
Yes,
We're just figuring out how to get there.
Yes. Instead of buying or not buying, you're putting it, it's going to be my corporation, it's going to be my name.
And I like the other part of that you mentioned in terms of the romance, the emotional, the martini or the furniture. It's helping them already picture themselves in the property.
Yes, or if people like to cook the kitchen, if people like to put cuadros.
The frames, artwork.
Then you start talking about the walls where you can put your artwork. It is entrance, there's a long corridor, you can put here your whatever frames. Yeah.
So, as I'm listening to all
these... That's why
these...
it's so important to qualify the person,
Yes.
It's going to help you to the end.
Yeah, of course. And as I'm hearing you go through these 7 steps, because I never actually heard your 7 steps before, I can see that your father definitely influenced you in a good way, because all throughout the process, nothing I heard was a hard sell. It's really about how to navigate and bring the person through, but also educating them while also playing to the emotional aspect of the sale, which is by the end of it, they want it. You're not saying you need it. Yes. They're saying, I want it, right?
And you have to analyze yourself also. Mm-hmm. For instance, I had a friend once, a few years back, when I was starting, that she came here, and I didn't want to have the responsibility of selling something to her. And I didn't do a good service. And I feel ashamed. And so next morning I called her and said, I'm calling you to excuse myself because I didn't do a good work for you. I was not really paying attention to what you need, but I was feeling about responsibility and things like that. And I think that this is what's convenient for you, and this is what you should buy, and this is good for these reasons and for the other reasons. And I made the sale, I made the sale because I studied myself what I was doing wrong. Mm-hmm. Because many times you do things wrong for different things. You perhaps that day is not the best day for you.
Sure.
For instance, today I will not be able to sell anything because I am so with my granddaughter, my grandson.
Yes. And enhorabuena, by the way. I've been waiting to say that.
Yes. I already sent them a message saying it's as beautiful as me.
Oh my gosh. There you go. I like that one. So, Alicia, I'm going to let you get going because I'm sure there's a lot of celebrating to be done. It's a busy week. But before I do let you go, 2 things. Number one, I just want to say personally, on a personal note, that is a true honor and a pleasure to work with you every day and to have you here in the office. You truly are an inspiration, not only to myself, but to, I'm sure, hundreds and thousands of people here. So I just want to really say that every part of the work and the job with you there is amazing. And I love it. And I love you for that. But the second thing is to take us out. I always ask our guests to leave us with a positive message, a positive thought for our listeners out there. So for you today, I'm going to ask that you leave us a message for the 4th generation. Not only is it Juan Mateo, right? It's Juan Mateo. For Juan Mateo and the 4th generation of realtors that are out there, give us your parting thoughts on today, the real estate market, and the future of Miami real estate.
Well, there is something that I think that I invite one day one of my realtors that was a very good realtor and was declining. I said, what do you think is the best quality to make a good sale, not to make a sale? And she started telling me qualification and all the steps and everything. I said, I said no, no, and no, and no. I said, well, but you have told me those things. I said, but when you came to me, I hired you, I say that I would like to work with you because you have enthusiasm. I think that I will say to everybody that enthusiasm is one of the biggest things that you can have to benefit you. Mm-hmm. Because when you go to church, for instance, you go to church or you go to something and the people say, yes, because God is very good. It's completely different. Yes, because God is very good. Right. You have to put the enthusiasm in things so you don't get bored, because people get bored. And one of the things that when you're selling something, you have to get away from school. Because every time that you start teaching, you're going to lose the sale. Mm. So remember that this is not school. This is a service completely out of school. And the other thing that I always say to everybody, that imagination is what moves the world. Einstein used to say that without imagination, he said, knowledge is fine, but imagination is the true value of being successful. It's an Einstein quote. And Napoleon if you have imagination, you will dominate the world. It's a word of Napoleon also.
Interesting.
See, so I think that don't lose your imagination. Always work in your imagination. Work on that, and you will be different, and you will be successful.
So imagination and enthusiasm. There you have it from the grand dame of Miami real estate, the queen of Brickell, Alicia Cervera Sr. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed it.
I am not a great speaker like my daughters.
You're amazing. You're amazing.
But anyway.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and thank you, and come back soon. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we certainly enjoyed making it. We hope you will come back. We've got some more great content dedicated to informing, intriguing, and inspiring Miami real estate professionals. Where can you find us? We're on the podcast store, wherever podcasts are available. That's iTunes, of course. We're also on Podbean, Spotify, Audible, TuneIn, Stitcher, and Google Play. You can even ask Alexa about us. Go ahead and visit cervera.com/blog. That's where our newsroom is located. We've got some more great content there as well, market reports, and more. You can sign up for our newsletter there. Connect with us on social @CerveraRE, or send us an email, miamirealestatepodcast@cervera.com. We would love to hear from you. So from all of us here in Miami, where the future is always bright, until next time.